Guess what we're gonna do today? Last year, my kids bought me this painting project to do. Now, I don't consider myself a painter. Um, excuse me. I this came with like an online tutorial, so she's basically telling me what to do as I'm doing it, and I loved the project. I loved the details that we did, like on the trunks of the trees. Um, it was very new to me. I liked the different shades, and she really did. I don't know. It's not great. It's not super awesome. Like I said, I am no artist. However, I didn't like how we went into all this detail in the trees, and then the closer up area, which are these flowers, were just like, oh, put a dot here and a dot here and a dot here. So while I am pleased with the outcome, not super impressed. So this last year for Christmas, that was like 2 years ago. So this last year for Christmas, they bought me this paint by number, and I thought, oh gosh, here I am painting by number, just like when I was a kid. But it's a big project. It's like 12 by 14 or something like that. And it was intimidating to me. So I thought, I want to try something that's, 16 by 20, even bigger than I thought. I wanted to try something that was a bit smaller first, just so I could practice. And that's where our little butterfly comes in. So let's open up this guy and see what kind of fun we can have. Now, you're going to think to yourself, okay, during today's project, Um, I've I was going to do a did you know segment. Well, I am going to do a did you know segment, and I was trying to decide what to do it on, and I decided snails. Now, why snails? Snails are not. They're just ew. And why? And it's fun story. I was heading off to work the other day. Walked out of my front door, was locking it up, and heard a little crunch underneath my foot. And I went, oh, what did I step on? And turns out, yeah, it was a snail. And I looked around, and it had been raining. And I don't know if that's why they were all out, but there were snails everywhere along my front garden bed. Now I'm not a great grower of green things. I like to plant things and then hope that they just magically make stuff appear like flowers. And so it really bothers me when I turn around and I see that what I'm really growing are snails apparently. And it had me thinking back to when I was watching an episode of Rizzoli and Isles. Oh, fun show. If you guys ever get a chance to watch it, it's awesome. And there was an episode where one of them had stepped on a landmine and they needed to get some kind of cover for the landmine so that it wouldn't like blow up um, the people. And there was a cover that was like the strongest in the world. And it turned out it was made by snail teeth. And I don't know why, but that has always stuck with me, especially because I didn't even know snail had teeth. And then I needed to know, like, well, how big are these freaking teeth? And I looked it up, and it turns out snails can have up to 12,000 teeth. They're not really teeth as like we have teeth, but oh my gosh, like it's terrifying. Don't look it up yourselves. That's just unless you really like snails and want to know about their teeth. Anyways, so then I started looking up facts about snails, and I found out a whole lot more than I needed to know. And so I just thought that today you needed to know a lot more about snails than you really cared to know. So if you decide you don't want to know about snails, feel free to simply mute the video and just enjoy watching me paint by color. And if you do want to know a little bit more about snails, or you just like to hear me ramble, then let's go. Did you know that North America has about 500 native species of land snails? Now, snails are they're also aquatic, and so there are land snails and there are sea like in the ocean snails. Snails that have just hatched can eat their shell. They hatch out of eggs, and they can eat their shells, and they'll even eat the eggs or the shells of their little brothers. Um, so I thought that was interesting. Most snails live from 2 to 5 years, but in captivity, some have exceeded 10 or 15 years of age. I think the longest living snail has been like 25 years. Let's see. In France, edible snails are escargot, a word that also applies to a dish made with them, which is an appetizer. And if you don't cook them well enough, they can make you sick. So don't just go grabbing your snails from the garden and pretending you're French and make up some escargot. Let's see. In some places, people eat snail eggs and call them white caviar. Ugh, I just did not need to know that. Usually, land snails hatch from eggs. It's kind of redundant. I apologize. Let's see. The mucus of the garden snail is used to treat wrinkles, spots, and scars on the skin. So if you've got some wrinkles that you need taken care of, go find your snails. Most snail species are hermaphrodites, so they have both male and female reproductive organs. That I did not know. The speed of snails is around about basically half an inch per second. If they move without stopping, it would take them more than a week to complete 1 kilometer. I knew they were so slow, but I didn't know they were that slow. Snails do not change their shells as they grow up. They are actually born with their shells. It is a part of them, and the shell grows with them. Snails host several types of parasites that, while it doesn't kill them, they are capable of affecting or killing their predators or animals that eat the snails. Okay, this is cool. Land snails breathe thanks to a lung. A lung, just one. They just have one lung. A single garden snail can have up to 430 hatchlings after a year. Just a single snail. So that explains why I am suddenly inundated, because it's springtime. All of the little snail eggs are hatching. But many snails are in danger of extinction. Not in my front garden bed, though. Some species of snails hibernate during the colder months of the year. They cover their bodies with a thin layer of mucus, ew, which prevents them from drying out. And sometimes they can do this in the summer to survive if it's a dry period. Did you know that the life expectancy of snails depends on their habitat and the species? But most of them only live for about 5 years. They don't live for that long. Although, if they are inundating your garden bed area, then it seems like forever. The biggest land snail recorded was 12 inches long and weighed nearly 2 pounds. It was a giant African snail. Most species are only a few centimeters long when they're adults and just a couple of ounces in weight. Most land snails have two sets of tentacles that come out of their head. There's the upper one that carry the eyes, and the lower ones have the olfactory organs. However, they don't have ears or an ear canal, so they can't smell. Snails are nocturnal animals, which means most of their activities take place at night, and that might explain why I accidentally stepped on one the other morning, because they had just been out partying all night long. Snails don't like the sunlight, which is why you find them out more on cloudy days. If you keep them in an aquarium, you need to make sure there's not too much light in the room, or they'll stop eating and hide inside their shells. Snails are strong. They can lift up to 10 times their body weight in a vertical position. My question is, how in the heck are they holding something? Is it in their mouths? Do they use their little tentacly things? Because they don't have arms and legs. So how are they holding something? These are the questions that I need answered. Snails do have teeth, a whole lot of them. They have a structure called a radula in their mouths, which is kind of like a tongue. And they can pry with their lower jaw, they can pry off pieces of what they're eating. And then they further break it down with this radula by like scraping it across the thing that they're eating. And it can have up to 12,000 teeth, which is, like I said, a whole lot. Now, in this episode of Rizzolian Isles, they said that they made this cover for, just in case there's a bomb. And all I could think about during that time was, what in the heck? Did somebody seriously just sit there and like with a microscope or something? Okay, I know realistically they didn't do this, but all I could picture was somebody taking a tiny pair of tweezers and picking out their little teeth one at a time, 12,000 of them, just to make what, a tiny little millimeter of what they needed. It just killed me. I was just, the way my brain works sometimes. Well, I sure hope that filled up your giant need to know things about snails. I would apologize for it, but I just really needed to get that out there. I really did. Today I am having a rough time. It may not sound like it, but I have had a new cult memory come back to me. Not going to go into it because it is so brand new and I am struggling really quite hard. So instead, I am going to play some music, and I hope that you will just enjoy me painting, putting down little dots of color here and there. It actually was a surprisingly enjoyable process. I'm not like I said, I am not a trained artist. I don't know about color theory. I don't know about, ways that you plan out a painting and make the magic happen. And I have friends who are painters, and the way they start out their process, it's mind-boggling to me. It's just, like I said, it's just mind-boggling to me. So this was just kind of fun. I mean, I didn't do any of like there's no base colors. It really is just here's the number, you put this color down inside. I did have to go back and do a second coat on all of them, but I was actually really surprised that I only needed to do a second coat. Some of them required a third because you could still see the numbers or the lines poking through. But for the most part, this was a really opaque paint. It was a fun project to do, and I did some of it off camera just because it was the same colors on the other side, and I didn't want you to have to sit through that. Oh my goodness, my words went away. The video would have just been so much longer that way. And then at the end, I do apologize. I thought that I had the camera recording when I was painting the dark lines of the butterfly, but apparently I didn't. So, but you'll see it when it's all done, and I just hope you enjoy the video.